Hello, everyone. Welcome to the PatsCast. My name is Connor,
How you doing? My name is Clay.
and so we decided to start a podcast, primarily focusing on everything Patriots, everything New England Patriots, and every we're gonna try to release episodes every Monday or so. You know, this is basically a pilot episode. So yeah, we're gonna be focusing on today the quarterback situation in New England.
hmm
So the big topic here is Cam Newton, of course, and whether he's staying, whether he's going, just a summary of his performance this year, and some other talking points. Yeah, Clay, what are your thoughts on Cam Newton in
So
general?
I was a huge Cam Newton fan from the start, and I'm excited just because he's fun to watch. One of the first Super Bowls that I paid attention to because I'm sort of a newer fan, and I'm sure that'll show. But I try to do my research. Was that 2015 Super Bowl, and just even though he didn't win and he didn't put on that huge performance, watching Cam Newton play was always really enjoyable to me because he's such a dynamic quarterback. And he's a really interesting physical specimen. Big guy at the quarterback position. They wanted him to be a tight end when he was signing to colleges, and physically he probably should have. But at the end of the day, he's the Superman quarterback. So as much as the season was a little bit mediocre, and that's kind of an understatement considering we're talking about the Patriots here. I think that it's sort of growing pains. It was a tough season. He did, elephant in the room. He did have coronavirus, and that probably affected the way that he was playing. Um, I don't, this might be a hot take, Connor, and you can absolutely talk to your side of things. I think that whether he's a backup to a rookie or a more reliable free agent, I think the Patriots re-sign Cam Newton. I don't think that they trade him or release him.
I agree with you actually. I think the Patriots should bring him back. Yeah, like I didn't start following football until like 5 years ago. I started playing fantasy football, and that's kind of where I started my started loving football in general. And 5 years ago, Cam Newton was a top five quarterback, and you try to grab him, you know, within the first four rounds of the draft, and he's like you said, he's a crazy man, 6'5", incredibly fast. Like I'm surprised he's like 32 years old or something, and you
He's
know
31 years old.
31, 32. Like I was just surprised based on like his speed or this season, and just seeing him run over guys. Like I didn't expect that from him, and um, you know I was in love with Cam Newton um, when he joined. Like ever since, actually even before the free agency period last year, around like March or so, I was like, oh, what are the odds of Cam Newton joining the Patriots? Like that's just not a Bill Belichick move, and you
Right,
know
very slim.
just an entirely different kind of quarterback. Like um, you know dealing with Tom Brady the last 2 decades, like just a pocket passer. He's a you
Right,
know
deep pass guy.
yeah, like it's just I I didn't expect it, and come what July or something when they finally signed him, I was like, oh
Oh
man,
yeah.
this is going to be awesome. And you know for the first 3 games of the season, like I thought he was going to be the guy. Like that whole the his performance against Seattle, I thought almost 400 yards, no passing touchdowns, but two rushing touchdowns. Like I
Right, and he threw for a good number of yards. Edelman had a really good performance in that game too. It was weird. It was a weird game.
yeah, no, it was a career day for Edelman, and he's been on the Pats for like this is like his 14th season, I'd say 13th, 14th. I'm not sure. I'm just pulling that number, but just a great game overall. And after that game, particularly, I was like, oh man, this Cam Newton's going to be the guy. But the rest of the season happened, and he had great numbers rushing wise, but he was last in the league when it came to passing touchdowns, and 10 interceptions is always not good. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I agree with you. I think that the Patriots should bring him back. I really think that it de- for any quarterback to join the Patriots next season, they need to surround him with wide receiver talent.
Well, here's the thing, Connor. So I looked into it, and that MVP 2015 season that everybody talks about with Cam Newton, the wide receiver bunch in the Panthers was really criticized, like
Hmm.
famously criticized before the season, and I think that their star wide receiver, there's no real. I mean, maybe Edelman, but Edelman is not really our star wide receiver anymore. He's sort of our future Hall of Famer.
Right. Yeah.
So no, the guy Kelvin Benjamin was
Hmm.
was out during training camp. He ended up not being able to play for the season, and so I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Connor. Who did Cam Newton throw most of throw mostly to during that season? Do you remember?
Greg Olson.
Greg Olson, the tight end.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I I
And
rem-
later on, he threw to Christian McCaffrey more than any of his receivers.
mm,
So I don't. I think that we could get away with maybe just Myers and Harry, maybe Bird. I think that whether it's the draft, whether we go and grab Hunter Henry, I think that if we have a stud tight end, the team is going to just go all over the place. The team
mm,
is going to have almost a facelift because Cam Newton can throw.
yeah.
He's not, he's not stunted in his arm. He has a good arm,
Yeah.
but I just don't think that he has targets that he is comfortable throwing to.
Yeah, I remember that 2015 offense. It was like Greg Olson, Kelvin Benjamin, Devin Funchess was in his rookie year. Like,
Right.
no, I wouldn't call them nobody receivers, but no, like, reliable number one guy. And
You call them workhorse receivers, and that the Patriots had that. I think that's why everybody thought that the offense was going to work so well because they have a bunch of all over the place running backs aside from Harris, who's consistent.
mhm.
But you had that one game with Burkhead having 3 touchdowns. Cam Newton likes his tight ends, and Cam Newton likes his running backs. And right now, the way that the Patriots work, we don't have a star running back that can be relied on. We don't have a star tight end that can be relied on. We got solid people in those positions,
Mhm.
but we don't have somebody that Cam Newton can look to see just snap the pass immediately. And we have a good enough offensive line to where he has some time. He's had a lot of time. He's been able to rush.
Mhm.
But personally, I think that if we get some sort of a star player, whether it's the draft, whether it's something, Superman needs his sidekick. I think Cam Newton needs his sidekick.
Exactly. And for the longest, I was hoping that N'Keal Harry would be that sidekick because,
Right.
you know, ever since he was drafted, I was like, oh, this kid has potential. He's like 6'3", 6'4". He's
Hmm.
built like a smaller tight end, I'd say, but he's a ferocious jump ball receiver. But these past what has it been, 2 seasons? He hasn't really showed that potential, and he still has time. Like he's only 20, 23, 20. Yeah, I want to say 22, 23 years old. Like he still has a career ahead of him.
Right.
But like, yeah, maybe someone in free agency like Hunter Henry or Kenny Galladay. We just need that big physical receiver that Cam can rely on because I think.
I mean, or we make a trade for George Kittle or something. I think that with we don't really have a whole lot of capital, and that's the issue with the whole Deshawn Watson phenomenon. But I think that we, in J.C. Jackson and in Stephon Gilmore, we have something. We have
Mhm.
something. It's not out of the question
Right, we
to make a
definitely
big
have.
trade.
Yeah, we definitely have some trade pieces. We have the capital that we haven't had in a while. Like I think Bill Belichick just needs to make that big move. Just needs to.
Well, he
Um,
won't, but
he won't because he's Bill Belichick. But as Patriots fans, we sure hope he does. But yeah, some of Cam's pros and cons, like, speed is definitely one of the pros. His build, his strength, his power,
Absolutely.
like his throwing power. Like he was throwing the ball fast this season. Like
Hmm.
his balls were definitely not, or his throws were definitely not accurate, but just the pure speed that he threw, most of his passes were crazy. His cons, like I just stated, his accuracy, it wasn't there this season. I think that's has a lot to do with just the amount of time he had to practice. Like he never he was kind of behind when he was kind of behind this off season when it came to practicing. He had that COVID hit in the middle of the season. I
Right.
just think he needs more time to prepare himself, and I think a little bit, yeah, just more time to prepare himself. I think that's best for someone like Cam Newton.
Right. And he was dealing with that injury too. I think, especially once we get our offensive line together again with the opt-outs, it's going to get easier for him. He's going to have an easier time in the pocket. And I think at the same time, the Patriots themselves, and this is sort of a con of Cam Newton that I saw, everybody was really eager to just slot him right into the offense. But again, the Patriots are a squad, a team that is so used to that deep ball, that pocket passer, that for a lot of the team, and especially for Bill Belichick, and even the offensive coordination going on, uh, they're used to those Tom Brady deep balls, and that's not what they got this season. And it's going to take a hard reset. And I think if there's anything that's a hard reset, it's 2020.
Right.
So hopefully, going into 21, the next season, we're going to see a little bit more of a shift towards confidence in Cam Newton and his ability to run the ball. I think that treat him like a running back, give him a running back that he can rely on, some people that can make big plays, and I think the confidence of Belichick would be huge.
Hmm.
He's been confident, those press conferences where he shows up in the Halloween costume and says, Cam's our guy. Throughout the whole latter half of the season, that's all you hear him saying. Cam's our guy, Cam's our guy, Cam's our guy. I don't think that's going to change. I really don't.
Right.
But I think that he's just going to keep getting more confident, and he's going to get that asked that question less and less if Cam Newton sticks around.
Hmm. Yeah. I I like how you noted, kind of just like the play selection culture of the New England Patriots. It transferred from, it being all deep balls, flea flickers, you know, just nice vertical passes. It's changed to drag, slants, screens, like it's all that. So like,
Right.
my question, do you think that Cam Newton's performance this season is a reflection of Josh McDaniels' play selection this season?
I mean, I think that Josh McDaniels he's really a standout offensive coordinator. He's done a really good job for the Patriots for the tenure that he's been there. And I think that he should stick around because it's difficult to get a really good offensive coordinator that is able to keep cohesion among different offensive schemes. And he was really adaptive, keeping some of those, we saw a couple really good flea flickers. A guy like Myers, who was a quarterback in college, able to easily throw a trick play like that, get a couple in there. Edelman too. I've been calling him, and I think Josh McDaniels will have more time, and I think that time is going to be really helpful for him because if you're someone who's again so used to that, um, just deep ball pocket passer, and then a couple months before the season starts, you have to adapt to Cam Newton, who is so unique in his play style and so a little bit like Tom Brady. He's been at this for a while. He can call his own plays. He can run and improvise his own plays. It makes things a little bit difficult for someone like Josh McDaniels, who's very Patriot style in terms of scheming things and making sure that things are cohesive and going the way that is planned. And Cam Newton is very much so win the game at all costs, which is good. But I think Josh McDaniels again needs to adapt and have confidence in his quarterback the same way that he had confidence in Tom Brady calling his own plays.
Hmm. Yeah, when you work with the same guy for so many seasons, there's no surprise that it will take some time to adapt to, a player that's has an entirely different, personality, play style, all of that. So, um, and you saw those clips during the games of, Josh McDaniels and Cam Newton. They have a pretty good relationship with one another. Like,
I do.
yeah, like, Cam Newton was very active when it came to, you know, fixing his mistakes. And I even saw, it was like a couple years ago, the Carolina Panthers made, I think they were the featured team for Hard Knocks, and, Cam Newton was in the back, studying film more than anybody else. Maybe,
Right.
not as much as Luke Kuechly, because we all know how much of a studier he is. But, Cam Newton is, he's, he's very, I don't know how to put this, but,
He's a leader. He follows the Patriots way.
right, yeah,
That's why he works so well with the team.
he's a hard worker. He has a strong work ethic. That's all. But yeah. So we talked about Cam Newton. We talked about how we both like the idea of Cam Newton re-signing with the Patriots. But what are your thoughts on the Patriots letting go of Cam Newton and him possibly going to a team like Washington to go back to Ron Rivera and possibly being a backup or maybe like a bridge quarterback until, Washington finds their guy?
Eek! I really want to see Taylor Heineke start next season.
I do too. Him
Honestly.
I love I just watched his highlights for the game. I didn't watch the game itself, but
Hmm.
it was surprising. I for a guy that was on the Patriots practice squad and on the practice squad for so many other teams, it was very nice to see a guy like him perform that well against such a dangerous defense with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But yeah, I don't know. In the back of my mind, if the Patriots don't re-sign Cam Newton, the one team that I see him going to is Washington.
Yeah, I guess so. I think a lot of people talked about the Colts are really quarterback hungry. I really can't see him on the Colts. They want that veteran. They want that pocket passer because it's just sort of the quarterback carousel that everybody's talking about this season that gives us a lot of hope because we're looking for someone that could, take the roster and lead our roster to Super Bowl next season, which seems a little bit unprecedented. But I personally think that with our cap space, with the way that Bill Belichick does business, with our draft capital, we could get the pieces and we could get there because we're very close. And time again, the Patriots have proven that they can, take a handful of, magic beans and turn it into a very large beanstalk. But to answer your initial question, I think that Cam Newton, if released, he's gonna be successful where he is. I don't think he's gonna be a starter. When he was being, still shopped around, him and like Clowney were the last free agents around, and Clowney got signed, and he kind of was a starter for some reason, a Pro Bowler. I think it's just because he's, consistently good. He didn't play a lot this season. This season wasn't stand out for him. But the question is not about Jadeveon Clowney. Cam Newton was going to be a backup, and he will probably end up filling the same role that like a Marcus Mariota filled, where he's going to be the backup to some whatever quarterback, play for maybe 2 games, be fun to watch, and just sit on the bench. Because teams, as I was saying earlier, teams are looking for that Matthew Stafford, consistent athlete, veteran, pocket quarterback that's going to take a good roster to the Super Bowl. And Cam Newton isn't that quarterback. He's never been that quarterback. But he can take you to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. He's a gamble. And I think he still can. It was only 5 years ago. That's not a long time. He's still 31 years old. How old is Tom Brady? And he's gone to the Super Bowl. So I think that Cam Newton will find success wherever he is. But I like watching him play. And I think that on the Patriots, he's going to get the largest shot to play. But I still think that and I'm sure you'd agree, we should talk about the other guys who could possibly take up a position in the Patriots locker room next season, free agents, trades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm looking at my list here and looking at some free agent quarterbacks that are going to be entering the free agency market this spring are Dak Prescott, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Andy Dalton, and Mitch Trubisky. Those are my four top guys. Um, I don't see Dak going anywhere else other than Dallas. It would be really
Nope.
surprising if he did. Um, he's gonna be. I think he's. I think he. I think he is a $40 million per year quarterback. After how valuable he was to the Dallas offense this season, or early in this season,
Right.
I think he's worth $40 million. The Patriots have that money. I just don't think they're going to be spendy. But yeah, I don't see Dak Prescott going anywhere else other than Dallas or sticking
Right.
in
In our
Dallas.
in our quarterback league, I see the Cowboys hanging on to Dak Prescott for dear life for as long as they can. The only reason that the franchise tag didn't end up getting put on him is because he didn't sign it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He wants more money, and I think like I said, after how he performed early this season, I think he's a $40 million per year quarterback. He's the
No, you're
franchise
right.
guy
He
in
deserves it.
Dallas. So but yeah, the other three guys, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Andy Dalton, and Trubisky. Let's start with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Oh
I
boy.
I I wouldn't mind if Cam Newton walked. If the New England Patriots let Cam Newton walk, I wouldn't mind Fitzpatrick being that bridge quarterback until we find our number one guy. And I think if the Patriots were to let go of Cam Newton, I think the best possible situation, or the best way that they can look about this, is picking up Ryan Fitzpatrick for a 1 year deal, short term, not a lot of money, and then maybe drafting a top guy in the draft, whoever that may be, and
Right.
having Fitzpatrick mentor him this season, and then having that rookie start in 2022.
I mean, I guess so, but Connor, would you rather have Ryan Fitzpatrick mentor this guy or Cam Newton mentor this guy?
I as we were talking earlier, Cam Newton is a team player. He's a leader. So I wouldn't mind Cam Newton being that bridge quarterback and being that mentor. Like I think he can play that role. And I don't know. I was just we're looking at free agents. We're looking at every
Right, right.
single possible
Ryan
option.
Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, to answer your question, I me personally, I prefer Cam Newton just because he's more dynamic than Fitzpatrick. I think that's you know we can't deny that. I I like the idea of signing Cam Newton to like a 1 or 2 year contract and then drafting a guy at 15, drafting a quarterback at 15.
I hope. I hope. I don't know. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is definitely one of those win now quarterbacks. And you saw it with the Dolphins where Flores was able to turn the team around from last season. And they're in a similar position to what you were talking about, where they drafted that young quarterback. Everybody was excited about Tua, and Ryan Fitzpatrick was winning. He was win now, and they didn't have huge superstar targets. Their wide receiver room was not really super. Running back room was not really super consistent because they traded all their weapons and it ended up okay. But what's interesting is the whole it's Tua time. Like, let's just bench Ryan Fitzpatrick and put Tua out there. Is he much better? I don't know. Who knows? But give him experience. He played well first couple games, and he got a couple wins for the Dolphins. But at the end of the day, like, Ryan Fitzpatrick is, he's not a Teddy Bridgewater. He's not the quarterback that you signed who's going to lead your team into, the hope of winning. He's the guy that you sign when you need a contingency plan. That's been
Right.
his whole MO.
He's a bridge quarterback. Yeah, I think that's been his MO for the second half of his career. Like I think he's that bridge quarterback, but when like I don't know. I think Fitzpatrick is just used to dealing with so little. Like um the Miami offense this season was not the greatest.
No.
Um they they have limited their running back the running backs they're not there. The wide receivers they're not there. So, but
Right. They had Mike Gesicki. He was good.
yeah, I think he's the shining star of that offense. But I think Fitzpatrick is
Absolutely.
just used to working with so little, and I think that's why I'm kind of liking the idea of Fitzpatrick being a bridge quarterback for New England because I th- I'd argue that the Patriots offense is a little better than Miami's offense. So
It is.
Fitzpatrick is
It
going to
is.
Fitzpatrick is going to perform better with the New England offense. But you know, I just I don't know. I I I I can just see Fitzpatrick being that bridge quarterback until we find our guy, and maybe that guy is 15, like you hope, um, or the guy that we draft at 15. Maybe that's the quarterback of the future.
Well, I think we're going to get our quarterback in the second round. I'd like us to see. I'd like to, get one of those three really good top tier quarterbacks drop down to 15. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of mock drafts I've seen, Mac Jones might just drop down to the second round. Someone that I like Kyle Trask, might
Mm-hmm.
drop down to the second round. He probably will drop down to the second round.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Patriots could get their guy in the second round. I mean, I don't think that anybody that we have right now is our guy. I don't think Belichick historically is good at drafting quarterbacks aside from Tom Brady. He hasn't liked quarterbacks in a ridiculous amount of draft classes, and we haven't heard any word from him on whether or not he likes any of these guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with the fact that Bill Belichick is not great when it comes to drafting quarterbacks. I think the last time he's drafted a semi decent quarterback was Jacoby Brissette.
Yeah,
Um, and Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Jimmy Garoppolo was a great selection in 2014. And we'll
right.
go into Jimmy Garoppolo later. But
Jimmy G.
we'll look at the rest of these free agents. Andy Dalton, I don't want him in New England. I think he's a backup wherever he goes. I wouldn't
He was a
say
starter. He was a
he was
star.
a
He was
starter,
a starter in Cincinnati
right?
for a
But
long time.
I just don't think he has the red rifle is just not there anymore. Like I I just don't think he's a plug and play starter in any offense now. Like I don't know. I just
Oh,
think what were you gonna
I just said no. I'm agreeing with you.
say? Yeah, I just don't see Andy Dalton being a plug and play starter in any offense. I think he's gonna be a backup wherever he goes, and that's why I don't see the Patriots go. I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots go with Andy Dalton, but me personally, I wouldn't want Andy Dalton on the Patriots. It's just,
Mm,
it's just like, it's just like a weird pickup, I guess. Like, I just don't see it
it's.
working out long term or short
I don't
term.
think anybody's going to pick up Andy. I think he likes it where he is in Dallas.
Hmm.
He's familiar with the area, and if you look at the QB ratings for the free agents that you're talking about, he has the lowest of the last season, and a lot of them threw however many touchdowns. And although he didn't play the whole season, Fitzpatrick, Trubisky, and Dalton all threw 8 picks, except off of the three of them, Fitzpatrick didn't play really as much or as confidently as the starter. So he threw 13. Dalton threw 14 TDs, and Trubisky, oddly, threw 16 TDs with a 93.5 QB rating. I think Trubisky is, as much as he's not really the guy, he will always forever be, ha ha, Bears, you picked this guy over Patrick Mahomes. But he's not terrible. He isn't bad.
Yep, I like the idea of Mitch Trubisky coming to New England. I don't see it happening.
No.
I don't see it happening. Actually I changed my mind. I wouldn't I wouldn't mind Mitch Trubisky coming to New England. Like he's young. He's a lot younger than a lot of these other guys.
Right.
Um, but yeah, like you said, there's always been that view on him of the as the guy who was chosen, the Bears traded up to draft this guy over Patrick Mahomes and Deshawn Watson. Like that is easily the
Oh.
biggest screw up in the draft in the past, I'd say decade. I'd argue decade. That's the biggest screw up. That's the biggest draft screw up in the past decade.
I mean, the Bears probably would have, no offense to the Bears, but they probably would have ruined Patrick Mahomes. So,
Yeah, yeah, I see that. But another guy I'd like to throw on this list is Jacoby Brissette, someone who's familiar with the New England, playbook, knows Bill Belichick, all those guys. I I wouldn't mind Brissett coming to New England as a bridge quarterback. I, but he's on the younger side too, so maybe he's the long term guy. But after how he's performed in New England and how he's performed in Indianapolis, I don't see him being a number one guy for too long.
no, he won't be. I like Brissett coming back to New England for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if we let Cam Newton walk, he could be a good mentor. He knows the scheme, and the Patriots can just kind of take 2020 as a weird experiment and drift back into what they're comfortable with. But I think that the struggle with that is Brissett can run. Brissett is a little bit more athletic than a lot of the other quarterbacks that the Patriots are used to, but they're going to try to get back into that Tom Brady offense.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't, like, after Brady left, they don't have consistency. And I think that the thing that the Patriots need right now is consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's keeping Cam Newton, whether that's going back to the deep pass offense with, whomever or whoever quarterback they want to pick, uh, they need something that's going to remain consistent for the next couple of years so that we can just get back to winning.
Mm-hmm.
So Brissett, as much as I like him, I think he sort of signifies a weird medium that I'm not necessarily sure the
Mm-hmm.
Patriots are going to be. Like, I'd rather Fitzpatrick over him, even though Fitzpatrick isn't familiar with the scheme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for Patriots fans, Brissett's a likable guy, and even when he was traded, we got Philip Dorsett, who was a serviceable wide receiver for the years that he has been in New England. But like you said,
Right.
I don't think Brissett's that guy that will help New England get back into that winning culture
Yeah.
and that
That's
that Tom Brady offense that Patriots fans have been wanting for the past year and a half. So um, yeah, I don't see Brissett being that guy. Okay, now that we looked at the free agents, maybe we can look at some trade possibilities.
okay.
I have a couple guys on my list here. There's Jimmy Garoppolo, who we talked about earlier. Matt Ryan, who's actually few. I've seen. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen a few TikTok videos of some guys predicting the NFL offseason, and Matt Ryan
Okay.
has been a familiar name on a couple of them. And I see it. I see it happening. Um, but I don't know. We'll go through the rest of the names. There's Carson Wentz. There's Deshaun Watson. There's Marcus Mariota, and then there's Sam Darnold. Those are the 6 quarterbacks I have down for this trade possibilities list.
Okay. I mean,
Um,
I think a trade really for all of them aside from Watson are pretty realistic.
mhm. I just, you know, I just don't want to take up Wentz's contract. What is it, like 40 million a year now for
Ugh.
like the next like 3 years or so? Like I just don't I don't want that. I don't want that like burden, stabbing through our cap space and depleting it to like, 15 million or so. Like I as much as I think Wentz still has potential in this league, and maybe he is a number one quarterback somewhere, that contract is going to be a burden to whoever he goes to, no matter, if you're on that top 10, cap space uh, list, where you have like 45 million plus dollars to spend, like he's going to be a burden to wherever they go, and it's going to be hard with all these teams that need to rebuild, need to get younger guys, need to rejuvenate their offenses and defenses. Like I just I just don't see I don't see Wentz going anywhere other than staying in Philadelphia until his contract runs out and then becoming a free agent at like 30, 31, 32. I don't know how old he is now. He's like 28 or so. But I don't see him going. Realistically, I see him staying in Philly as a backup slash starter until his contract runs out. They're not going to re-sign him. Philly's going to learn their lesson and they're going to let him go. But
Ugh, such a shame. I mean, I like Hurts. I liked Hurts. I think it wasn't a terrible idea for them to draft Hurts. Um, yeah, if it wasn't for his contract, I mean, he could be a really good quarterback for a number of years for another team. He's a young guy. He could take up that position. I really just don't think that last season could have been a fluke. People say that last season was a fluke for him. But I personally think that if the Eagles keep him, it's just going to be awkward. He's just going to be an expensive mentor for Hurts. And even earlier on into the season in games, games that weren't really streaming around here, Patriots fans weren't really watching a lot of Eagles games, but he was out for a couple snaps in most games.
yeah,
They like Hurts. They like Hurts, and even though Doug Peterson's not there anymore, they probably still like Hurts.
yeah.
So
I think Hurts is their guy for maybe until his contract, maybe until his rookie contract runs out. I think Hurts is that guy. Um,
yeah, I don't know. I don't think Wentz is coming to New England if it's any of the places that of all the places he could go. I really think that it's going to be either the Colts or I don't know, some other team that's in stark desire. Yeah, anywhere. I don't think New England. I don't think New England.
I agree with that. Let's go to Jimmy Garoppolo. There was an ESPN article released the other day that basically said that the 49ers aren't willing to trade Garoppolo unless it's for Deshawn Watson. How do you feel about that?
I mean, everybody is really eager to make the point that the 49ers are ready to part with Jimmy Garoppolo after he got injured for not even the whole season last season. He's a really good quarterback. He was a really good quarterback in 2019. Little known fact, he actually led the team to a Super Bowl, even though the roster was really good. He was there at the Super Bowl. Personally, I think they keep him. As much as the Patriots, I think, would be good with someone like Garoppolo. He was the heir to Brady for a long time, but Belichick saw something. It could have been some sort of, short-term benefit, but he's a long-term guy. We don't have Garoppolo anymore. I really don't think that he's going to come back. I think the 49ers are going to stick with him, and Deshaun Watson is too good for really any team right now, unless it's like the Chiefs or maybe the Ravens. If you're not the Chiefs and you're not the Ravens, you're going to try to exchange your quarterback for Watson because it's just an upgrade. But at the end of the day, Garoppolo's probably going to stay with the 49ers. He fits the scheme. Shanahan likes him. He's found success with him. So, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah. Making this list, I really only saw Garoppolo and Mariota being the two quarterbacks we could trade for. But after seeing that article today that, the 49ers are not really interested in giving him away unless it's for Deshaun Watson, it kind of like ruined my hopes, I guess. But even if the 49ers do trade Garoppolo away to any team, 49ers have the number 12 pick in the draft. They could draft like a a Trey Lance even at 12. I
I
believe.
don't think they will. I don't think they
I
will.
don't think they will either, but they have a good enough draft position where they could draft a top 5 quarterback. But
It
I
could, and
yeah, I see Garoppolo staying in San Fran. Deshaun Watson. Do we do we really want to go over Deshaun Watson? I don't. I just don't see any team other than the Jets or the Dolphins trading for Deshaun Watson or being able to trade for Deshaun Watson because I think the Stafford trade really rebooted the um, the the market for a quarterback this offseason. I think I mean yeah, you could argue that the Rams don't like having first round draft picks and that's why they gave away so many, but
right.
the asking price for Deshaun Watson is going to change after that trade. Um,
I mean, or you could just say that that trade was sort of a fluke. The Lions are a weird franchise. We really don't know whether or not the Rams are going to start winning, but I think that, obviously it was an upgrade. You could sit here and, speculate all day as to whether it was that substantial of an upgrade, first round draft picks and
right.
quarterback assurance, but I don't know. I think the Rams really wanted to win that bad. I don't think it's a, let's trade, 5 first round picks for Carson Wentz kind of a trade, but
Mm,
it's a quarterback driven league. Some teams are more desperate than others for quarterbacks. If you're the Jets, if you're the Dolphins, you're not desperate for quarterbacks as much as people think that trade could happen and shake up the offseason. They're not really that desperate. They both have uh, in picks in the top 3 of the draft.
right.
They both have solid quarterbacks right now, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll talk about Sam Darnold in a second. But it's salvageable. They both have salvageable QB situations.
Right.
The Patriots sort of have a salvageable QB situation. I
Yeah.
don't. I don't see them trading for Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson's the face of a franchise. He's a young player. I think as much as it's not the fun thing to say, realistically, I think he's going to have to work things out with the management and of the team. He's going to have to, figure out uh, what he wants and what he needs in order to turn that team around. They really don't have the draft capital to do it, but hopefully they're able to work with him and get him what he needs and get the team what they need to become a contender again. Because I don't really like. It makes me sad that the Texans went from really good playoff contenders to practically reversing their record the season after just because of poor coaching.
All right.
Ugh.
Yeah. That their team changed for the worst after that DeAndre Hopkins trade, and um, yeah, like I said, I don't see Watson going anywhere other than the Jets or Dolphins. If it's the Dolphins, then good luck Patriots winning the division for the next decade or so. Like that's pretty much end game there. But yeah, I
Well, we have the Bills already, so
we have the Bills, but yeah, no no playoffs for the next 15 years if Watson goes to Miami. And yeah, um, yeah. So Watson, we just went over. Matt Ryan, we went over briefly, but we didn't go too in depth. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I. The only reason why I see the Falcons trading Ryan away is because of their draft pick this year. They have the number 4 draft pick. They could go for someone like Fields, even Zach Wilson. Like, they could get their franchise guy, and that franchise guy could work with Calvin Ridley for like the next, 7 or 8 years until Ridley's, 31 or so, about Julio's age and all that. So I only see Ryan. If Ryan's traded away, then they're drafting a quarterback. No doubt in my mind. Um,
Yeah. I mean,
but like
Arthur.
I don't know. I see Matt Ryan's a plug and play starter wherever he goes. Unlike some guys like Fitzpatrick and Dalton, even
Mhm.
Trubisky. Like but I don't think Ryan's going to do well in this offense. Like, at least now, if without any wide receiver help, I don't think Ryan's going to do well in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, also there's kind of the stigma of Falcons, Patriots,
Yeah.
and Arthur Blank, I think, said early on that he wants Matt Ryan and Julio Jones to stick around for another season.
Mhm.
Matt Ryan is still the kind of unspoken face of that franchise because
Mhm.
even though the Falcons are winning per se, they still have a franchise to uphold. He's their guy. You know, when they premiered the new jerseys last year, he was the dude who was, um, modeling the jerseys, not Calvin Ridley, not some new player, not Younghoe Koo, even though I want it to be Younghoe Koo. Um, he's really their guy. I really don't think that he's going to be traded this season. I would talk about him more realistically maybe next season or the season after, especially if the Falcons continue to suck. But they have a new coach. We'll
Yep.
see.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think Matt Ryan's going anywhere.
Yeah. No, I
On the other hand, a quarterback that I do think could go places, and you mentioned it briefly. Unless you have anything else to say about Matt Ryan, I want to talk about Marcus Mariota.
I want to go into Mariota as well. No, nothing more about Matt Ryan. Let's go. Let's talk about Mariota.
Yeah, Mariota is interesting because he was a backup this season.
Hmm.
When we saw him start, he was okay. However, I am a little bit, as much as he fits this new running scheme, it would be glorious to see him be mentored by Cam Newton. That would be so wonderful. Well, when he was starting with the Titans, he had a good quarterback rating, but he was similar to Cam this season. Like, I think it was 2018 or so. I think it was 2018. He threw 7 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, which is good, but not a lot. And for a mobile quarterback, he only had 2 rushing touchdowns. I'm a little
Hmm.
bit scared that Mariota. I hope he improves. I hope Gruden had a good influence on him, and Carr was a good mentor. But I don't know if it's worth a big trade. Maybe if we pick him up on the cheaps or for a cheap trade, but
Hmm.
I don't think he's the guy.
Yeah, I see that. I know. I was just thinking, he's on a 2-year contract with Las Vegas, making about
Right.
$9 million a year. I don't see it being you know, that much of a burden on the Patriots if they do end up trading him. Like, what are the Patriots gonna trade him? Like a second round pick or something, maybe third. I mean, he's not a starter, and he hasn't been a starter for a couple years now. But he has that he has that ceiling, I guess.
He
I
does.
I
No, he
think
does.
Mariota. You said he played okay. I'd say he played pretty well when he started for Las Vegas that one game this season.
He did.
Yeah. So Mariota is very similar, to Cam Newton wise, in terms of um, play style. He's nowhere near as big as Cam Newton and as physical, but he
Right.
has that speed. He always has that speed. Um, so yeah, I think it'd be very interesting if he made a move to New England. Um, I wouldn't be disappointed. I kind of like that. Mariota's a likable guy. Um, but yeah. Um, so the last person on this trade possibilities list is Sam Darnold.
I think
And
Sam Darnold is more realistic
mhm.
than people think. But Connor, go ahead. You were saying.
um, I was thinking, the Jets have the number 2 pick in the draft. They should have had the number
Right.
1 pick, but they decided to win a couple games on purpose, or maybe on purpose. I don't know, but they have the number 2 pick in the draft. They they're going to use Darnold as a. They might use. I don't know. They might use Darnold as a trade piece. They might not. They might just pick Sewell and build up their O line, make Becton and Sewell you know one of the best tackle duos in the league. Um,
Oh,
that would be filthy if the Jets selected Sewell with the number 2 pick. But you know, I think Houston is going to be very hungry for that number 2 draft pick because Houston doesn't have a first or second round draft pick this year. I th-
mm-hmm.
I realistically think I realistically see Houston trading for the number 2 pick with Deshawn Watson,
Uh,
and Houston getting Justin Fields with the second pick, and then having Sam Darnold as well. Those are two very, high ceiling guys, I guess you could say, in a new offense.
very, very much so.
So we'll see. Um, but yeah, I have Houston trading up for either the second or third pick with the Jets or Dolphins, and having the Deshaun Jackson package, or not package because he's probably going to be sent by himself because he's that valuable of a player. But
Oh yeah.
you know, I realistically see Darnold going to Houston, and then Texans drafting Fields with number 2, just and seeing who's going to be the top guy going forward. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just Jets are very hot and cold when it comes to having confidence for Sam Darnold. Like they're like, one week they're like, oh, he's our guy. He's always going to be our guy. We drafted him with the intention of him being our franchise guy. But one week they don't talk about him at all, and trade discussions start occurring. So I don't know. Sam Darnold's interesting guy to talk about.
He is an interesting guy to talk about because he didn't really play that well last season. He had more interceptions than he did touchdowns, and he had some really good moments. He had a really good quarterback run. He had a couple good quarterback runs, but there was one, I'm trying to remember, it was like 30 yards or something, and it was really good. He shows a lot of talent. He shows a lot of promise in spurts. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think that if that Watson trade happens, the Jets are in a better position. We're pardon my French, but he isn't really like in Houston. It's just going to be a crap show with a good quarterback and some okay wide receivers like it is now.
Yeah.
They're not going to win. If they do that trade, they're not going to win. They're not.
Yeah.
It's just another poor trade on Houston. So I know Deshaun Watson wants to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, they're still a team. They have to at least try in the offseason not to go 0-16 next season.
Right.
They can't tank. They're already on the process of declining, and they hired a new head coach, new general manager, and those people, unfortunately for, I guess we're not really in their division. So unfortunately for the Titans, they have to do their job, and they have to try to be a good team, which is not that hard because the Texans have a pretty good shell.
Mm-hmm.
They have pretty good offensive players. They have okay defensive players, but
Right.
I think that it's an entirely possible trade. A lot of people are speculating about it, like you are, Connor.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that someone like Sam Darnold could find success in New England. I don't think he's going to be traded over here, but I think of a lot of these guys, I would feel a little bit more comfortable with helmet to helm.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy that's I just wanted to touch upon him because he's, again, not really realistic. But Jameis Winston, I think he signed a 1-year deal, 1, maybe 2 years. But he could be traded. I don't know.
He could.
He's a flaky quarterback. I'm going to be interested to see what the Saints do next year, if Breeze retires or not, which is kind of odd how he hasn't retired yet. But
yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. I don't know. I it's kind of odd that Philip Rivers decided to retire before Drew Brees, because I don't know. Drew Brees is just a guy, the type of guy to just after one playoff loss, he's gonna call it a career. No one's gonna be mad at him about it. I don't know. I think it's kind of, like you said, I think it's kind of odd that Brees hasn't retired yet. I see him retiring. I don't see him playing next season. and I see Jameis Winston being the starter for, you know, a short while until, the Saints get out of cap hell. What are they, like almost 100 million in the negative when it comes to
Oh,
cap
it's bad.
space? Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
really
they
bad.
renegotiated the contract, but no, retiring is weird in the NFL. I was looking at our draft picks from last year, the Patriots,
Hmm.
and there was a guy drafted in like the sixth or the seventh round, a rookie who retired during training camp after being drafted.
Yeah, it's it's odd. That's funny. Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't remember his name, but I remember seeing a report on that guy. It was some guard or something from Michigan.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. I don't know. I see Winston staying in New Orleans. Sticking with Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill's gonna be that gadget guy. Until his contract is up. I think. I don't know. I looked into it. Taysom Hill is getting a pretty decent sum of money on an annual basis. I saw
Yes,
he's
yes, he
getting like
is.
$16 million a year for a backup. Like I I don't know. I think he's a great player. He's very versatile. He's the most versatile player in the league, arguably. But I don't think he's worth $16 million a year. That's like starting running back value right there. Like I don't know. Um,
He's their finisher.
yeah,
I love looking at his rushing touchdown statistics because it's just so weird. It's
yeah.
like, what is this guy? Because
But
they like, how in the world do the defenses and defensive coordinators not be like, okay, the Saints are at the goal line, they're gonna bring out the same guy
I
to
would.
do the same play, and he's not a running back. He's an older gentleman who's done the same thing over and over again, probably multiple times in the same game. I'm
Yeah,
I have mixed feelings on Taysom Hill.
yeah. I was so upset. It was the Christmas game.
Yes, oh my
It
god.
was literally history making for um or historical for Alvin Kamara. But they were on like the 2 yard line, and Kamara was going to get his seventh rushing touchdown of the night, and they decided to get Taysom Hill out for a QB draw. Like why? Why? Like just give Kamara, his seventh. Like yeah. On Christmas of all days. That's like a Christmas miracle for him. Like let the
It's
guy
how the
have
Saints
uh
work.
yeah.
It's how the Saints work. But we're not the Saints. We're the Patriots, or we're Patriots fans. And we can only hope. And for
Yeah.
some reason, the Saints win, and last season proves that we aren't. So
Mhm.
hopefully, uh, not the quarterbacks that we discussed. It's not really optimistic, but I think that from the draft,
Mhm.
we have somebody. Cam Newton is somebody. We could
Mhm.
trade for somebody or get somebody in free agency on the cheaps that could be a good mentor.
Mhm.
There is a very strong possibility that we find our guy this upcoming season.
Mhm. I don't know. I'm thinking of the quarterbacks that could fall to 15, and I think I guess the four I'm thinking of are Trey Lance, Mac
Hmm.
Jones, Kyle Trask, and I've seen on some lists Justin Fields falling to 15.
Yes, yes, I have as well.
Um, well, let's just go over each of those guys and you know.
Okay.
So Justin Fields, we'll start off with him. I don't see him falling down to 15 at all. I think he's a top 10 draft pick. I think he's gonna, go to, maybe Atlanta, New York. Um, let me look at the draft order real quickly. Okay, so, um,
There's a lot of people before us, Connor.
yeah, I see him going to New York, Atlanta, Carolina, and then,
He
yeah,
could go
those are
to
the.
Denver. He could go to
He
Denver.
could go to Denver. I don't see Drew Lock being the guy for too long. Yeah,
Oh
so
no.
uh, Denver, Carolina, New York, and Atlanta are the four teams that I see. Well, other than the Jaguars, Trevor's guaranteed going number one. But those four teams are the teams that I see drafting quarterbacks. Um, but who knows? A lot of the teams I just mentioned have other needs.
We could trade
Denver.
up.
Yeah, we could trade up. We have the capital. We have some of the pieces. I don't know if any team wants anybody on the starting roster right now other than some key
Gilmore.
Gilmore. Yeah, but
We could trade Brian Hoyer,
Brian.
Brian Hoyer, and Bailey.
Yeah, but
He's a Pro Bowler.
oh, I love Bailey, by the way. I don't I don't want to go on a tangent, but I think he was easily, other than JC, the best player this season for the
Yeah,
Patriots.
I personally think for those of you who are in the market for buying a Patriots jersey, obviously Cam Newton is just oh my God, I love
That's the hot
Cam
item.
Newton as a player. It's a hot item, but get yourself a Bailey jersey. It's gonna be there next season. He's probably gonna be the season after. He's really the jersey to buy right now.
Mm.
That's my hot take. But anyway, enough about Bailey. So draft capital. So Trey Lance is your first guy.
Trey Lance is my first realistic guy at 15. Um, I looked into him. He has the speed. He has the height. He's kind of like Cam Newton in a way. Like, but he only played one game this season in oh, where's he go?
He
um,
goes to North
North
Dakota.
Dakota, where
Bisons. The Bisons.
yeah, where
Carson Wentz.
Carson
Right?
Wentz, yeah, Carson Wentz went to North Dakota. Um, yeah, like I said, very similar to Cam Newton in a way. I think that's his best pro comparison, really. Um,
Hmm.
but he has the arm strength like Cam Newton does. He's just like a younger Cam Newton, I'd say. Um, do
Nothing
the
wrong with that.
yeah, do the Patriots draft a guy like Trey Lance at 15, or do they wait? Do they wait for a second round where like maybe like a Mac Jones or Kyle Trask is available? Because me personally, I like the idea of the Patriots drafting Kyle Pitts at 15 because I believe that he's going to
Oh
be
my God.
available. I believe that he's going to be available at 15.
If the Eagles don't take him, I really think that of all the people, people talk about Justin Fields dropping. Realistically, Kyle Pitts will probably drop,
Hmm.
and he is such a valuable player. He is such a playmaker, and I think that we were talking about Greg Olson's sort of going full circle. He could turn this Cam Newton offense all the way around.
Hmm.
If we draft him, maybe we pick up Trask or Mac Jones in the second round. In the third round, we get a solid running back. That's it right there. That's all we need.
Yeah,
I know
no.
that Belichick doesn't like to draft offensive players in the draft, but
This is the
but
one year that we need it. This is the one year that we need it.
absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely. I mean, or we could pick up a running back from free agency. Maybe we can grab Boston Scott or something.
Hmm.
Uh, there's not really a lot of depth at tight end in free agency. I think that Pitts is a really, really good option for the Patriots, and I
Yeah.
think that they should take him. I really think they should.
Yeah, draft Pitts at 15 and draft Kyle Trask in the second round. You get that Florida connection right there.
Oh
Bam
yeah,
boot pow. That's it. But yeah, I don't think anyone reaches for Kyle Trask in the first round. I'd argue
no,
that no one reaches for or Mac Jones in the first round either.
no, you're right.
Um, and personally, I don't like Mac Jones being a starter for any team at the moment. I
Nope.
I I just have this feeling that if a team drafts him and with the intention of starting him, like I've heard talks about Denver possibly drafting Mac Jones. I don't see him starting automatically because in at Alabama he had Devontae Smith, who was the best wide receiver in college this year, Heisman winner.
Uh-huh.
Jalen Waddle, who's a speed demon. He was hurt this year, but he's easily a projected first round pick. And then
He
Najee
is.
Harris, who's so dynamic, has the size like Derrick Henry, has the speed like Dalvin Cook and has the hands like, um, I don't know, James White. Not as good as CMC, but he has hands like James White, who's that dynamic. Who I also think is a projected first round pick. I have him. I have Harris going to the Steelers, or like maybe the Jets at 21 if they don't end up trading for Watson. But
Right.
I I just don't with all that firepower in college. I don't think all that talent is going to. I I don't know. I don't think maybe with Denver because Denver has Sutton, Judy, Fant. They have some high ceiling
Patrick.
players.
Patrick is a good receiver.
Patrick. They have Lindsey. Philip. I don't know if Philip Lindsey is a free agent, but they have Gordon. They have
Melvin Gordon's the guy.
yeah. They have a talented offense, but I'd argue that the Alabama offense was much more talented. Like like those guys are all projected, in the first round. I think they're going to be wide receiver ones, wide receivers twos, wherever they go.
Right.
Um, I don't know. I just don't think Mac Jones is a plug and play starting quarterback wherever he goes, and I don't think he should be
Right.
drafted first round.
And we're probably not going to pick him. I think so. Trey Lance is a possibility. Fields won't fall, but I think if he falls to 15, come on, we'd be
If
so
Field,
stupid not to take it.
if Fields falls, I would be so happy if the Pats pick him up. That I don't
That'd be
know,
gorgeous.
but
He's what we need.
yeah.
Let's see. I like Trask. He's going to take a little bit of time. Mac Jones, you said, is going to take a little bit of time, and he
Mhm.
might end up just being Studham too.
Mhm.
So I think realistically, in terms of a quarterback in the draft, we're looking for somebody to fall
Yeah.
and maybe taking somebody in the second round.
Yeah, because 15 in the draft is I'd argue that's worse than having like a late round first rounder because I don't know because all the good quarterbacks are going to be gone. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and arguably Justin Fields if he doesn't fall like all these if he doesn't fall like all these predictions say he will, but I don't know. You know, if you want a top tier quarterback, you need to get him in the top 6. Like that.
Yep,
That's what I feel, and
absolutely.
I I just don't see any. I don't see a Zach Wilson falling to 15. Realistically, I don't see a Fields dropping to 15, but there's always the chance. Um, I don't know. I think, like you said, as a Patriots fan, realistically, we're hoping for Pitts or maybe like a top end defensive player. Like I've seen Micah Parsons be drafted at
Yeah,
15 by some mock drafts.
Parsons, Rousseau, maybe Horn.
Yeah,
I've seen.
get one of
All
those
good.
top defensive guys or a generational talent like Kyle Pitts, and then wait and then draft a comfort guy like Mac Jones or Kyle Trask in the second round. A guy who can be mentored by someone like Cam Newton, Ryan Fitzpatrick, or like another veteran, and then start him in the future.
Yeah. So, in terms of the quarterback department, things are not too shabby for the Patriots. We have a lot of options.
Right. Patriots have a lot of options, but knowing the Patriots and knowing Bill Belichick's decision making in the off season, it's a bigger question than it seems.
Yeah,
That's
I
it.
mean, that's why doing this early is kind of exciting, so we can see if our predictions come true, if our hesitancies are shared by the people and the higher ups in the Patriots, which honestly, we've been pretty conservative with our calling. I think that's probably the case.
Hmm. Okay, so I think that's a wrap. So
Yeah.
next episode, we're gonna be joined by the third man, hopefully Seb, and we're gonna go over the receiving corps